Yeah, that was fine. And I'd like something written on it.
You can't have it. The cake decorator isn't in yet.
Well, couldn't you do it?
Are you kidding?
Well, why not?
Hey, Louise, he wants me to write on a cake.
You? I'd like to see you try.
All right, then, I will. What do you want written?
Happy birthday to Danielle. No, happy birthday to Dominique and Danielle.
Dominique and Danielle. You gotta be kidding.
Come on, let me show you.
A modern day remake of Matthew Vaughn's Lay a Kick, a Coen Brothers end up with Timothy Chalamet. A Citizen Kane prequel, a Midnight Cowboy sequel, Alvin and the Chipmunks deserve another squeakquel. There's so many new ways to revisit Sideways, but a graphic novel is how we choose to update. But we still hold fast, you can't change the past on the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
On our last S film, we celebrated the weirdness and wonder of the 1987 workplace comedy, The Secret of My Success. The story of a college grad farm boy who goes to the Big Apple to take big business by storm. The film's director, Herbert Ross, was a frequent collaborator with the movie's editor, Paul Hirsch, teaming up also for Footloose and Steel Magnolias. Aside from his work with Herbert Ross, Paul Hirsch was known to collaborate with directors on multiple projects. He edited Planes, Trains, and Automobiles and Ferris Bueller's Day Off for John Hughes, the Star Wars crew for A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, and Brian De Palma for a total of 9 films, plus one as an editorial consultant for Corky O'Hara. Notable De Palma films edited by Paul Hirsch are Mission Impossible, Raising Cain, Blowout, The Fury, Carrie, Phantom of the Paradise, and this episode's film. Greetings, Starfighters. This is Ruined Childhoods. I'm John, joined as always by my brother Dan. And on this episode, we take a look at Brian De Palma's second feature film, Sisters, a psychological thriller about the weirdness and wonder of previously conjoined twins and what happens when they're literally and figuratively torn apart. Dan, what's your favorite movie edited by Paul Hirsch?
Wow.
And just to give you a little bit more context, he also did Falling Down, Ray, Source Code, and Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
Wow. You know, I really need to look at his filmography. Just give me.
So, okay, while you're doing
go
that,
ahead. You've thought about this already. So.
Well, no, but the thing is, like, while you're doing that, I want to explain that, like, you know, when I'm writing the intros for these episodes and on this series where we're going up and down the alphabet, you know, we did our A to Z and now we're back going Z to A. And so for Z to A, I'm linking our A to Z movies by letter with the Z to A. And so I'm like, okay, well, Secret of My Success is the one for Sisters. And it's like, oh, they're edited by the same person. Like, there's no reason to do anything other than talk about Paul Hirsch. And when I saw, like, you know, he was one of the De Palma crew.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, the beginning of the De Palma verse, you know, it's a lot of the usual suspects for him, and, you know, including William Finley, who we'll talk about soon.
Right.
You know, Robert De Niro was a big one. They started together.
Right. Yeah.
And Paul Hirsch also,
yeah.
Like, they all started together. So, yeah.
He did not edit The Untouchables. Okay. Interesting. He did not do that one. He did.
Were you
Mission
looking to see?
Mars.
Because if it was the Untouchables, were you just going to say, oh, it's that one?
No.
Okay.
Was I going to say it was that? Like, that's the one he didn't do?
No. Was I going to say that's your favorite movie edited by Paul Hirsch?
No. As I'm thinking about this, so I mean, like, my favorite movie of this list is Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
I mean, I've loved that movie since I've known what a movie was.
Right.
So, but it's also like, in thinking of this as, if I'm thinking of like, all right, what's my favorite movie of this list? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I feel like Paul Hirsch, and I mean, I know nothing about him, but it seems like he really has, I can imagine he has more fun doing these Brian De Palma movies. And Brian De Palma movies are very much edited in a very mostly in a very specific way, and they have
He's got a few signature moves.
Yeah, absolutely. So like if I had to go strictly, if I was gonna just go with the De Palma movies, because they really do stand out in this filmography, probably Blowout.
Blowout's pretty amazing. I need to watch it again. I mean, I do think it may be my favorite De Palma movie. We talked about that when we covered Phantom of the Paradise.
Yeah.
And because I want to go back to it now, having seen more De Palma and looked at him more closely.
Right.
You know, in Sisters is where he started to do this, but using that split screen to great effect. In Phantom of the Paradise, he does it a lot as well.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm trying to remember if he does that a lot in Blowout too. But it really lends itself to the story. It works in service of the story to do it.
So much. There are so many of those touches in this that are like, it's signature De Palma, but it's also, it's kind of like, it's almost as though they were created to tell this story, and then it was like, oh, we can use that, we can do that again.
Well, yeah. Well, Sisters, which is in a lot of ways a story about voyeurism, to show different perspectives concurrently, is a really incredible tool to use. But it's also like when it comes to signature De Palma moves, it's kind of like the split screen and then the split diopter, which I don't like when I see a split diopter shot, because to me,
for those who might not understand, would you mind explaining, please?
So it's essentially a different type of lens or lens attachment, really, that lets you have something in the foreground and something in the background both be in focus.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but what it does is it creates this like halo-y effect where it's very blurry in between, and it's very obvious to me. And so when that happens, it takes me out of the movie, because it's just like, oh, they're using a split diopter now. Where I feel like editing decisions bring me in, like in camera, tricks take me out.
Right.
And De Palma loves a split diopter.
I mean, yeah, now that you mention it, I'm like, I can't think of anything specifically, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and he started using them. I mean, I don't know when the first time he used it, but it was after this kind of like beginning cluster of films in the early 70s.
Yeah.
That he really starts to get into that. But yeah, this is the first one with the split screen. So you're going with Empire or Blowout?
I mean, it's so hard. And Untouchables might have been had he edited that. But I think about the original Mission Impossible. And I just think about in terms of the editing. I mean, they say that that's really like, where a movie comes together, and it's it's the editing and the editor, who sometimes works closely with the director. It feels like with De Palma that is the case.
It's a relationship.
Yeah. So it feels like, sorry, I totally lost track because I'm looking at the, I'm like, oh man, Raising Cain. I haven't seen that in forever, but that was really
I need
good.
to watch Raising Cain also.
What's that?
I need to watch Raising Cain again.
Yeah. I mean, that's one that I had seen quite a bit, but I mean, hey, like even, yeah, I mean, the whole, like the strength of editing and what a great editor can do, especially when they're, I mean, someone like that. And, but yeah, anyway, that, I don't know. That's where I have to go. What's your favorite?
Well, I think that it would have to be Ooh, it's tough because Phantom of the Paradise, I think, is masterfully edited.
Yeah.
To what you were saying before, Blowout's incredible, but I gotta say, like, Falling Down might be number one for me.
Down's a great movie. We've talked about it.
Yeah.
Fantastic movie, and indeed a movie where the wizened viewer will see that the editing certainly
Right.
plays a role in the storytelling and
Mhm.
characterization, of course building tension, but
Right.
yeah,
Right.
it's quite
Yeah.
quite something.
But you gotta say, like, hats off to Paul Hirsch. It's a tough call.
I mean,
Like,
shoot, maybe the original Star Wars. I completely overlooked that as I'm looking at these, and like,
yeah, I mean, without his work, would it have been anywhere near what we all know?
no, and like it is, yeah, not even close. But I mean, shoot, throw a dart, close your eyes and throw a dart.
Right.
But yeah,
And
Carrie,
if I'm not
Carrie, I
mistaken, this is both of our first time seeing sisters. Is that right?
that is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I thought it was fascinating. I thought it was really a well-made thriller. I thought it's something interesting about, I guess, I don't know if it's really necessarily De Palma per se, but that this movie is really built around around women, like female leads, especially the character of, and I am Grace. Yeah, played by Jennifer Salt. She really kind of anchors this movie, and it does feel like there's commentary here on the the trouble or the obstacles being faced by professional women, especially in the 1970s. But it's no secret it persists today, but that where men don't take them seriously,
Yeah.
and kind of write them off.
Well, there's a few things going on here, and we'll do a synopsis shortly for those who haven't seen Sisters, which I imagine is a lot of people. But the way that this movie starts, which I don't know about you, but it made me think of Paul Verhoeven, RoboCop. You're starting on a television show, a reality series that's all about voyeurism called Peeping Toms.
Mm-hmm.
And when this movie starts, I was like, oh, this isn't anything what I thought it was going to be.
Right.
Because I thought that it was going to be more like of a horror type movie.
Right.
But instead, I feel like I'm getting social commentary right off the bat. And I loved that about it because it messed with my expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly in 1972, it didn't know that it was going to be necessarily doing that, because we didn't have RoboCop at the time. We didn't have a lot of movies that have this type of thing done in such a major way.
Took that format and also kind of as a commentary on that style of entertainment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And credit to them, they made this fully formed game show just for this opening sequence, and I was so loving it. I mean, it's definitely, a candid camera type thing, but it's game showified.
Yeah.
And also this movie made me really appreciate Margot Kidder, who I always kind of wrote off because she was Lois Lane and her personal life was so highly publicized, and her performance as Lois Lane, especially when you watch the Superman movies, knowing more about her personal life, which I wish I had a better understanding about who she was rather than just what I was told, because the more I did research on like who she was, it was like, oh, she's a very progressive person. She stood for what she believed in. She spoke out, and she was like a strong advocate for a lot of really progressive, movements, and very supportive of the LGBTQ community, and especially during times when like it wasn't a popular thing to do that.
Right. No. She was, ahead of, and I think between her being an outspoken advocate and like much like you, I grew up knowing her as Lois Lane, and
Right.
and hearing, seeing Family Guy do,
Do her no justice.
no. And she's someone who, when we think about the stigma of mental illness and how, as a society, our attitudes are shifting towards mental health awareness, it makes me think that it's especially tragic that Margot Kidder, who's someone who, as I read, did have mental illness, as dealt with mental illness throughout her life, but it seems like kind of untreated or mistreated. And of course, you just imagine being in Hollywood, and like
Hollywood did her no favors, and unfortunately we lost her very tragically. And honestly, like, I felt like in a lot of ways she was done dirty, seeing her performance in Sisters, where it's just like, oh, she really did have chops. And her characterization of Lois Lane, especially, with the exception of maybe the first movie, but like, then she just becomes kind of like the weird hot dog and orange juice lady.
Oh,
and the one that's like, going off to the Bahamas and Paris on, things. And it's, I don't know.
Superman 2, it was freshly squeezed orange juice.
Right. And also, and honestly, it's like, it makes her seem kind of insufferable to be around because, she's just obsessive about, her weird things. And it's, in the first movie, there's a lot of endearing moments where you see her more as a human and less of a caricature.
Yeah. Her voiceover during the flying that's one of those parts of that
Can you
movie.
read my mind?
Yeah. I'm like, I could do without that.
Yeah, but you know what? It's a comic book movie. It's silly.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
But to see her, and also it's like, she was so heavily I think that she was romantically involved with De Palma during the making of this movie. Before this, they were just part of the same like friend group. She and Jennifer Salt lived together, and the story goes that like one year for Christmas, De Palma gave them both the script for Sisters that he kind of wrote for them. And at least that's how the story goes.
Yeah.
And I hope that it's true, because I think that that's really sweet.
Yeah.
And it's such a wild adventure to go on. It was such a really fascinating movie to, story to tell.
And really quite a role. Like if you're in this, both roles, Grace and Danielle, really great roles as an actor to sink your teeth into.
Yeah. Right. And Margot Kidder is playing, a French Canadian with a very heavy accent on the French part. And watching her do that, I was just like, man, I am drawn in by this character.
And she is Canadian, but not French Canadian.
Yeah, she's West Coast Canadian.
Yeah.
I thought that Jennifer Salt was really great. I'm sad that I don't really know her from other acting roles. I don't know if I think that she go into more of the producing side of things. I don't know if she's really continued on to be much of an actor.
Yeah, more of a producer and screenwriter. She was on Soap.
She was on Soap.
That's where I knew her name from. Yeah.
Great name. Jennifer Salt.
Jennifer Salt, yeah. She was not in the movie Salt. She was also in The Wedding Party and Hi Mom. for
right.
De
Hi,
Palma.
Mom, which was De Palma's first movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. That's the De Niro one, right?
Yeah. I've never seen it either. But let's see. Oh, she co-wrote the screenplay for Eat, Pray, Love.
Oh, okay.
She wrote for Nip Tuck, other shows, and let's see. Yeah, I mean, it looks like she's been primarily writing, though, like also producing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Guess what, John?
Tell me.
You might also recognize her from a 1987 episode of Murder, She Wrote.
Murder, She Wrote. Oh, interesting.
Oh, as Helen Langley in the episode, and I quote, Indian Giver.
Oh, I know exactly which episode that was, because when that title came up on the screen, I was like,
nope,
this is going to be insensitive. And it was.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well,
yeah. Dan, why don't you do a synopsis and then we'll like really get into this.
Grace Collier, a determined reporter for a Staten Island newspaper, witnesses a brutal murder in the apartment across from hers. But when police arrive, the crime scene is spotless and there's no sign of a struggle. Only Grace's insistence that something terrible had indeed transpired. Undeterred, she begins her own investigation and quickly zeroes in on her neighbor, Danielle Breton, a seemingly fragile woman with a deeply unsettling past. With the help of a private investigator, Grace uncovers a disturbing secret. Danielle also has a twin sister who may be dangerously unstable and connected to more than just a single act of violence.
Intriguing.
And as Danielle, of course, we have Margot Kidder. As Grace, we have Jennifer Salt. As the private investigator, Charles Durning. And as Danielle's husband, ex-husband, etc.
Doctor, scientist.
William Finley.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Unrecognizable, really, if you think of him from Phantom of the Paradise.
Right, yeah. Yeah. Well, he's so good at playing just like a weird guy.
Right. Yeah. But he's really like, it was interesting because I didn't really recognize him. I forgot he was in
great.
the movie. But, and we also have Barnard Hughes as Arthur McLennan and Olympia Dukakis. Did you recognize Olympia Dukakis?
You know, I believe that I would have recognized her, but I happened to have read that she was in it before I watched it, so I was kind of on the Olympia lookout.
Okay.
Olympia watch.
I had no idea, and at first I was like, is that Ellen Travolta? No, that's Olympia Dukakis.
Just in an Ellen Travolta type role.
Yes, that it must have been the costume. That is 100% very true. Very true.
Right. Yeah. The film was great to watch. I was nervous going into it, knowing that it had to do with conjoined twins.
Mm-hmm.
Was just like oof. 1972. We didn't know then what we know now. We don't, I don't know, address people in certain ways, but it's like, all things considered, handled better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know I'm not familiar with any like conjoined twin advocacy. So but I didn't really catch anything that seemed like they based a lot. There was a lot based in history.
Right. Mm-hmm.
In fact,
well, I think that I was just nervous that it was going to go into like, and pardon the terminology, but like freak show territory where it's sensationalizing, this type of thing. But I feel like, it did give like actual historical context. And also Chang and Ang, the conjoined twins who were part of Barnum Bailey Circus, they were in the New York Times. They were an answer in the New York Times crossword puzzle recently. And I had just watched Sisters, and I was just like, oh my God, I know this.
Yeah. Wow. See, it's an educational film.
It was what was interesting about it was that like the clue had to do with, was like Chang and Ang, famous, blah, whatever. And the answer was Siamese twin or
Really?
Siamese twins. And I was surprised that was how they were being referred to, because I was under the impression that was no longer
Correct.
acceptable nomenclature.
Yeah, we don't do that anymore. That is
Right.
not the preferred nomenclature.
That is not the preferred nomenclature, dude. So, going into this, I was just like a little on edge, a little nervous. And then it was just like, I don't know. They seem to do, for 1972, a pretty damn good job.
Well, it has a lot more to do with the psychology.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really, it harkens, first of all, it reminded me of two other movies, another Brian De Palma movie being Raising Cain,
Mm-hmm.
which deals and perhaps with less scientific credibility with the idea of multiple personalities.
Right,
And actually,
right.
coming back to it, it's multiple personalities brought on by abuse.
Yeah.
Or by trauma. So
Right.
it could potentially like connect to like Split. But then you also have the other film it reminded me of, and it was The Dark Half, which based on the Stephen King novel,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't think had been written at this point, but
Right.
About an author who, it was for him, it was that he had a partially developed, like he absorbed the other twin in the womb.
Got it. Mm-hmm.
Right. And as I remember that being a good movie with Timothy Hutton in that.
I don't know if I ever saw that one. You know what it made me think of, and a lot of it had to do with just like the way that certain scenes were photographed, and the nature of like experimental surgery was Seconds, another movie that's bookended by the letter S.
Yeah.
And that we talked about on this podcast a long time ago. And there were certainly big, major differences, but it was mostly just the nature of experimental surgeries. But like this one took things in a very different direction, both in very strange directions.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh definitely. Yeah. I was a little nervous going in, more on the front that I expected it to be, I guess, kind of like you were saying, more along that quote unquote freak show route, but also like more along the like a body horror.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is not always my thing.
Yeah. Well, I'll go into more later, but let's just say that
Okay.
like in the 2006, I'm assuming made for Canadian TV remake, at least that's just my assumption. They go a little bit, it's not like body horror, but let's just say there's a little bit more work done with the scars than there are in this original version.
Yeah, no. And there's just enough done in this original version to to give
totally.
the viewer a sense. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I don't want to give away any endings or anything like that, but there were several moments when I was watching it, especially during a scene toward the end when Grace is essentially being not experimented on, but she's given certain drugs and trying to be in attempts to influence her mind. But during that, I was like, what is happening and what is real? And it was one of those moments where I was just like, are we going to know what's real and what's not real?
Right.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to, I know what you're talking about, and I know why you don't want to be more, we don't want to be more specific about it, and we'll leave it at that. But right. I was like, is this like, it was kind of like, what my impression was, I was like, they have put her in this state and in order to better understand.
Right.
And that it's not necessarily real, but that she has this, like, it's almost like virtual reality, but just drugs.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the movie itself, in a lot of ways, is really a commentary on, women's liberation. And what my read on it is including also the fact that it's about, male sensitivity and control of men, and the man's need to control women, essentially. And when Grace is being I guess messed with at the end, it's just like, he's trying to manipulate her because this doctor, wants things to go his way and doesn't want this reporter to get in the way. Really, really cool, like really fascinating. And like, this movie got me thinking way more than I thought it was going to.
Right. Yeah. It's really interesting like that. The way, and by the way, like, not to say anything or reveal anything about the ending, but kind of not really an ending. Don't get me wrong. I was satisfied with it. I liked it.
And that's what I love about movies of this time, is that like ambiguity is like praised, whereas now like everything needs to be explained unless it's, a Christopher Nolan movie. I feel like, those are the ones that can get away with leaving you wondering. But like,
the ambiguity is the point. Yeah.
Yeah. There were certain moments where I was like out loud being like, what? Huh?
Yeah.
What is Charles Durning doing here now?
Right.
Like, who was great in this? I loved it.
Yeah.
Hey. I think the only other Durning movie we did is Home for the Holidays. And
wait, I mean, in this, are you saying Durning movie that we've done, period?
Oh,
Tootsie?
I forgot he was in Tootsie.
Yeah, Tootsie, Home for the Holidays, The Sting.
Did we do the Sting?
Did we do the Sting?
I don't think we did the Sting.
Maybe we didn't do the Sting.
I don't think we did the Sting.
We probably have not yet done the Sting.
Yeah.
So
just totally forgot that he was in Tootsie.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Charles Durning, he's so good, and I really liked him in this. The casting was great. Who's the guy? Was that Bernard Hughes? Who's the guy at the beginning?
No.
That's the scientist guy.
No. That was that this guy Lyle Wilson, Philip Wood.
Philip Wood. Okay.
He plays. Yeah, he comes in.
Yeah, I thought that he was fantastic.
I love when that he buys, and man, all right. I'm just gonna say this. I loved so he comes home with her after they do this show, like one night stand. Yeah. And after he finds out that like, oh, her sister's there and they're having a birthday, and he goes out. Was he go out to like get breakfast or something?
I think he goes out to get a cake.
No. He goes out for there's something else he goes out for, and then he stops for a cake and. Oh, right. He goes to the drugstore to refill a prescription. Right. Mm-hmm. And he picks up the and he stops at the bakery and gets a cake, and he's all like, hey, I'm going to be the nice, maybe this is going somewhere. He's like, I don't know. Maybe there's a future here with this girl.
Well, what's also so good is that there's the simultaneous actions of, like, it's been set up that the person who decorates the cakes isn't there, and he wants to have their names written on the cake. And Danielle's sister Dominique has a very long name, and he's basically working with them to write "Happy Birthday, Danielle and Dominique" on this cake, which takes so long. And it's like, if that wasn't being done, he could have got back there in time to perhaps have prevented himself from being murdered. Like,
right, the
tension builds because something is going on while he's doing that, and while they're writing the names on the cake. Ooh, it's good.
Yep. And yeah, it's such a well plotted script.
Yeah, no, it's really nice.
Or
And
I mean, and I guess maybe this is also where the editing comes in, but yeah.
Big time, Paul Hirsch.
I mean, man, and just to talk about one sequence that was just such great De Palma and the split screen is so I guess I mean we can give away that our cake buyer what happens.
Yes.
Yeah, you already said it. So good, we're safe. Yeah. So he gets killed, and then Danielle and Emile are like cleaning up and hiding.
Emile is the William Finley character,
right?
Her ex-husband, who is also a doctor. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. So he is, so like the whole time while you have like the cops coming into the building and going up the stairs, you see them while Emile is cleaning up the mess, and then they're coming up the elevator and he's trying to get out, and you see him hiding, and then when it like comes together, it's so cool, and it's so well done, and I really like, yeah, I know it's a gimmicky thing, and it's like so De Palma, but also like imagine that. Who else is going to be able to do that in their movie anytime soon without having it just called like a De Palma homage or ripoff?
I know. And it's done to such effect too. It's so good.
Worthwhile because De Palma has certainly been, both credited for and credited and blamed for like homage throughout his films.
Right. Well, this movie was, just believed to be a Hitchcock ripoff.
I mean, it's Rear Window if it went in a different direction. Like,
yeah, and you know what? It's like, yeah, it certainly has elements of that stuff, but it does very much its own thing. Yeah, in a really, really wonderful way. Yeah, there are so many things that I just thought were really nice touches. There's certainly some things that I feel like have become more tropey than they were perhaps at the time. But I wasn't mad at them at all. Like when on the TV show when they when Danielle wins the like set of knives, it's just like, well, there's the murder weapon. We all know that's gonna be the thing that is used to murder. And I was just like, I am here for it. That's totally fine.
Yeah, that's exactly.
I'm not mad at it at all.
That's what you're watching this movie for.
Totally. Yeah. And I do want to talk about the 2006 remake, which was not good. I mean, it's got Chloe Sevigny as the Grace character. I can't remember if the name is the same. Stephen Ray, who we recently talked about a whole bunch.
Yeah.
He is the William Finley character. And then Lou DeLeon, I don't know how to say her name exactly, is the Danielle character. She's Charlotte Gainsbourg's sister, I believe.
Okay.
And French and very cool and everything. And who's the guy? There's a guy who is in it who is super familiar, and I'm blanking on his name.
Is it Dallas Roberts?
Dallas Roberts. I was going to say it's a name like Dallas or something. And like an early role for him, and he's the the guy gets murdered. Yeah. And he's very good, but like, the moments in the remake where they are replicating certain scenes, like him going out to get the cake, it's like, all right, here's the him buying a cake scene, and it's like we see him going into a place that has like a freshly printed piece of paper taped to the window that says, "We sell birthday cakes," and the guy who works there is like, he's no Olympia Dukakis, we'll just say that. And all that's there is like an ice cream cake, and the guy that works there is just like, if you wanted something written on it, you should have called ahead at least 3 hours. And it was just like, what's all this information? Like,
what's with a Canadian not being so nice?
I know. That's another thing.
Disappointed.
Yeah, it was an entertaining watch, but it was certainly no nothing like the original. It didn't ruin my childhood.
No.
We'll just put it that way.
No one's
but,
childhood was ruined as much as Danielle's.
Yeah. Totally. Or Dominique's.
Or Dominique's, yeah.
Or Dominique's.
Yeah.
Right. So, but I do want to give a shout out to Chloe Sevigny, who is really great. In a not great movie, she definitely held her own. She always good.
Always is. She brings the class.
Yeah. And I will say my one complaint about Jennifer Salt is that she did not have a Staten Island accent. And even though it would have really probably taken us out of the character, it felt like it needed to be there because this is very much a Staten Island person.
I know what I saw. There was a murder in that apartment, okay?
Perfect.
If you're not going to listen, fine. I'll find out who did it.
100% accurate. That's exactly what she should have sounded like.
We know of which we speak.
We know of which we speak. We'll put it at that. So, Dan, what would you do with Sisters 2025 styles?
Well, whatever I would do, I'd make sure that the Staten Island accents were appropriate.
Absolutely. And I feel like Staten Island being the setting for it was like perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, all right. My two ideas for this. So my first thought was just the story would make for an interesting season of a show like True Detective.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be interesting to kind of do it that way. And you like to kind of do it without necessarily acknowledging like it's, I mean, you I guess you'd have to give whatever credit you need to give, but without saying like this season of True Detective, we do sisters.
We do sisters.
Yeah. No. So, but I think that
De
kind
Palma
of
style.
I think borrowing, and I would go more True Detective than like Fargo, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think that could work. I do feel like the right filmmaker could do a decent remake of this. And I don't know why, because I actually have not seen her films, but Emerald Fennell was kind of just the
She's
name.
Great.
I was like, this seems like the type of person, because also it feels like, and I mean, you know, like respect to De Palma, I don't think, you know, I think he did everything fine, but to have a female director, and she just, from what I've read about her and from her films and their style, it just felt like if anyone was going to do it, like she would be the right person.
She nails satire, and you know, commentary. Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, so that was really where I was feeling. Also, I think that like telling more stories of real life, conjoined twins, and just like it would be interesting to see more, you know, documentary. I guess there is also, I guess, just to bring your attention to the, now I would not recommend a musical theater adaptation, but there is a musical that is about conjoined twins, and it is called Sideshow, and it is a true story.
Okay.
So is you know, very true story of these sisters, and so there does exist a musical featuring conjoined twins and about that experience, though very different from this.
Got it.
So that's
and Sisters, you know, it is inspired by, I want to say their names are Masha and Dasha.
Yeah. I
conjoined.
Yeah,
I know one of them is Dasha. Yeah. Anyway, but I
do think what I would definitely not do is have like a type of sequel or something, or a different version where they were singing nuns, where it would be called Sisters Act.
Yes. No.
I would not do that.
Yeah, when I was searching for the 2006 Sisters online, it was trying really hard to bury this movie in my search results, and it was like, are you sure you don't just want to watch like Sister Act? Because like it's right here. Just like I do want to watch it, but like I kind of need to see this other thing. So
Yeah, but you want Sister Act, right?
step aside, Sister Mary Clarence.
Is Sister Act 2 back in the habit? No.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh, a little joyful. No.
Not today.
Not today's not the day. Today's the day for the lousy 2006 remake that I would only watch because of my fandom of Stephen Ray. I almost said Stephen Wright.
Yeah. Stephen Wright, who's also great. Very different type of role.
I love Stephen Wright.
He's more of a William Finley type. Than a Stephen Ray type.
Yeah. But damn, William Finley is just great in this. Like, that's the thing is, yeah, I feel like you really need, you would really need a filmmaker who can get actors to just get weird.
Totally. Yeah.
So,
No,
yeah.
I had a
Oh,
great
what's your plan?
Well, do you want to hear the real one first or kind of my joke one first?
I would like to hear the joke one first, please.
Okay. Sisters 2. It's a Lego sequel. It takes place present day. And I understand that Charles Durning is no longer with us. Rest in power, King. But you have a Charles Durning lookalike that is aged appropriately, still up where we see him at the end of the movie. I will say no more. He's still there.
Wait, so it doesn't pick up. It's just like it doesn't pick up. It's
90 minutes of Charles Durning just still there. That's all I'll say.
like in the year 2025.
In the year 2025.
Okay, and
just long beard and fingernails, and he's just still right where we left him. Anyway, what I would really do, honestly, is encourage there to be like a, early De Palma programming block at like a rep theater to show, a big cluster of these early De Palma films.
Oh, yeah.
In whatever restored versions we have of them, because I feel like there's a lot to learn, and I really would love to go back, and I want to watch Hi Mom. I want to watch all of those like really early De Palma movies, and like, we talked about this when we speaking of Superman, Richard Donner, when we were talking about his early movies and X-15, which is what we did on our first X movie, going into a little bit more about like the early career of somebody who then went on to just make such iconic films. And I just want to do like a little bit of a study of like, of De Palma's early work. And maybe this is just a personal thing for me, but like, maybe I just go like backwards through his entire catalog and like, see all the things from later in his career. And then you go back to those first like 5 or so, all directed or all edited by Paul Hirsch. And, just really like soak yourself in them and carry, pun unintended, but just kind of like see all of those things that have become such a standard. Just douse yourself in that De Palma blood. And just kind of see the movies where it's just like, ooh, that's the first time that he did X, Y, and Z, because he's a director who's full of the, aside from the split screen and the split diopter, all of these little elements that kind of made him, be one of those like signature directors. And I don't know. I feel like I overlooked, and we talked about this on Phantom of the Paradise. Like I feel like I overlooked him because I thought that he was one thing, and then between Phantom of the Paradise and Blowout and now Sisters, it's just like, oh, I really had him figured all wrong.
I think he got written off by a lot of film snobs by the, the end of the 90s, especially. I mean, there was the Bonfire of the Vanities fiasco and whatever, whatever stink that left on him. But yeah, I feel like I remember him being just like, either like not taken as seriously. And
Right.
when like a movie like Mission Impossible came out, it wasn't like it was a Brian De Palma movie.
No,
it was more
just
like
a working director.
it was kind of every now and again Brian De Palma needs to do like a summer blockbuster.
And who would have thought also that like the first Mission Impossible movie would be like anything that anybody would care about, especially 30 years later.
Well, yeah, no, and that's a franchise that's really interesting because it kind of rebooted itself before it needed, like in the middle.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
totally. Right. In a really transformative way, I think with starting more with the third one, once J.J. Abrams got involved, and then it sort of like was reshaping itself off of the John Woo weirdness of the second one.
Right. And then the fourth one was where it became about the stunts. It started to.
Well, right. The fourth one was the one where he's on the Burj Khalifa, which, at least for that one, I feel like the movie wasn't as centered around the stunts.
No. But
Yeah.
it was when it started, because that was definitely the, oh, wow. And it was like, oh, yeah, no, he really did that.
Well, also in the second one with like free soloing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. He really did that. Did you hear? I saw Brad Pitt quoted recently. Someone asked him if he'd do another movie with Tom Cruise. And he's like, yeah, but I'm not hanging my ass out of a plane or any of that shit. If he wants to do something on Earth, I'm down. That's something like that. I loved it.
And that's great. And 100% yes. And yeah, I mean, also it's like in the first movie, he did the stunt, hanging from, the thing, like that was done practically. And it's certainly not as dangerous or risky as the stuff he's become known for doing.
Right.
But, especially with the last two movies, it was like the marketing was based solely around what the stunt was going to be. Whereas even with like Fallout, it was kind of like, oh yeah, and by the way, like these elements were all done for real, and this is the behind the scenes stuff, but it wasn't like, check out the latest stunt from Tom Cruise.
I think for Fallout, the stunt that was marketed around was Henry Cavill kind of loading up his punch.
Oh my God. So good. So like a lot of people, I recently rewatched a lot of the Mission Impossible movies, and I feel like my order of favorites has like kind of changed. Whereas like I thought going into it where I was going to be like, I think it's going to be Ghost Protocol. And then I was like, ooh, Rogue Nation is really good. And then it's like, oh no, Fallout I think is my favorite. And then Rogue Nation, and then maybe 3, and then Ghost Protocol, and then 1, and then 4, and then 7 and 8. Like 2
doesn't even get ranked.
Did I not put 2 in there?
No.
I think I would put 2 between 7 and 8, or maybe even back before 7.
I need to go back, and then I'm going to bring it back to De Palma, but I need to go back to 2 and kind of reappraise it. I also just want to watch 3 again. I just remember seeing 3 in the theater and really thinking it was great. But
well, yeah, definitely. I mean, we love us Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yes.
So good.
But like, and the original Mission Impossible shows what the other De Palma blockbusters like Untouchables show is that even though they're not as offbeat as a Sisters or even a Raising Cain, they still have those touches, those flourishes. They're still really visually like fun to watch.
Yeah.
Even when they're doing homages, which Untouchables, yes, is full of those.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, De Palma, I think in a lot of his movies, it's like a showcase of a really talented and expertly appointed cast. And that is extremely true for Untouchables, which also includes somebody who's in our next episode's movie. Dan, do you want to tell everybody what we're covering next for our next R movie?
Our next R movie is going to be the 1996 action extravaganza directed by one Michael Bay, starring Sean Connery, Nicolas Cage, Ed Harris, David Morse. It's The Rock.
It sure is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
I forgot for a second that David Morse was in it, even though I love him in it. And just you saying his name made me so happy.
I was not going to, and I was just going to go with Connery, Cage, and Harris, and then I thought about one of the shots, and I was like, and just really quickly in my mind, I was like, Ed Harris's right hand man in this is also like, and I was like, it's David Morse. Gotta put some respect on that man's name there.
And we'll talk plenty about David Morse. When you were running down the cast, though, I thought you were going to be like Sean Connery, Nicolas Cage, Ed Harris, his wife.
Amy Madigan?
You know what I'm talking about? No. You know what I'm talking about?
No. What?
Okay, we'll talk plenty about this in the next episode. But at the beginning of The Rock, we see the backstory about Ed Harris, and it just cuts to the his dead wife's tombstone, and it just says his wife. I mean, it has her name on it, but it says his wife, where it's just like, whose tombstone is that? Oh, I forgot to read it. It's his wife. Got it.
Yes. Okay. Absolutely. But no. Oh, and John Spencer. You got to throw John Spencer in there.
Yeah.
Great cast.
Yeah.
Some early Bay.
I'm excited. It's going to be a lot of fun to talk about it. Truly a wonderful journey we're going on.
And
on
Connery, this is our second stop on the Connery filmography here.
Mm-hmm. And as we've talked about before, with at least for some of it, a ponytail, which we love.
Yeah.
And just peak Nicolas Cage action era. We love it.
I mean, yeah, we'll talk about it on the next on the next episode. But wow, two of the lead actors of this movie are fresh off of Oscar nominations. One fresh off an Oscar win for this,
right?
So man, yeah.
Well, Dan, as you are following a moving truck with a sofa bed in it, I wish you a good journey.
As I'm sitting up on that telephone pole, good journey.